Hey, it's Eli K Atlas, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to this video, and this video is going to be about my first FAQ for my channel, but also my first AMA Ask Me Anything. I held one this past week in Wednesday the 3rd, 2018, January. And I got a lot of questions. I got a lot of comments and responses from you guys, which I'm really happy about. I had like 100-something RSVPs. A lot of people turned up. It's really surprising me because it's my first time. I made a lot of new friends over there. So I'm going to be doing some of the comic-related questions and answering those questions over here right now in this video. So stay tuned. 58, comments and questions. But I really unexpected questions popped up too, so I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you guys stopping in and taking the time to give me some questions, and I was happy to give you guys the feedback. So, because I got a whole variety, but I'm going to be sticking to the comic book related ones in particular. We will start from the first, going to the newest. And for those who want to read the rest of the questions, make sure you guys go to the AMA that I already finished at AMA feed, and this is the comicsama.com, the sub feed, and I'm going to leave a link in the description for you guys to check out, and you can check it out. For those who joined the AMA last time as well, make sure you guys leave a comment, and I can maybe turn this into kind of like a regular thing for every month, every other month. I'm looking to get into that kind of a schedule with it. The first question comes from TriggerHappy0404. He asked, did you study art in school or from certain artists? Everything I learned was basically self-taught, lots of observation, lots of study, both philosophically and visually. Over the years I've read a few books on drawing here and there, and while they're generally helpful things, I always find I put in the most by getting my hands dirty and practicing. TriggerHappy0404 also asks, how long did it take you to get as good as you are now? Not counting random drawings as a kid, but instead when you started seriously practicing and studying. I answered, about 9.5 years, if we're talking about my current style and including my traditional and digital artistic abilities. He continues, do you look at references for faces when drawing a pinup? And with backgrounds, can you just imagine a city without reference? I answered, it quite depends on the face. Typically I draw faces from imagination, but sometimes the client will need a likeness drawn, or I'll hide a particular person's face in a background in the audience or something like that. Backgrounds are tricky. I usually do wing it most of the time, especially for interiors. Sometimes I wonder if that's a problem, but things seem to be working out for the most part. Other times, if it's a real city like New York or something, I'll always use a reference. Even buildings need their likenesses represented, If I'm just drawing a generic fictional landscape, I'll always do it from imagination. I'll probably throw some strangely shaped buildings in there as well, if I can get away with it. Looks cool. Adrian White asks, who's the one artist you'd like to collaborate with on a piece? My answer, this is a tough one, so I'll cheat and do it by category. The colorist would be Marte Gracia of Marvel Comics. Not quite sure if I got that right. Ed Benes, or Ed Baines, I've heard it pronounced both ways, and Wade Von Grotbacker, which I'm pretty sure I'm saying right, all these foreign names, and also Roger Ibanez, all these guys are like Latin American, I can barely pronounce it, I don't know if I'm doing it right. But the reason for the colorist is I love his style. I've been basically trying to emulate his style for a while, I guess. It kind of looks different, which is good, but he's like a big inspiration. And for Ed, he's kind of started me on my way with the style that I kind of have now. Moves on, and I'll talk about that later in this video with one of my other answers. And Wade Von Grotbacker, I love his work on, everything that Stuart Immonen does. The Homer X-Men stuff is some of my favorite work. And Roger, he's got this really soft look. I really like it. Nick Z asks, can you share us your process of creating comics? Do you write a script or make up the drawings as you go? Whether I'm drawing for myself or someone else, everything starts with a script. Making up drawings as you go can lead to fun and creative things, but will most likely lead to plot holes and inconsistencies. That's not to say it hasn't been done before. If I remember correctly, Travis Charest has a series called Space Girl that evolved from some cool designs and no script. to my knowledge. My process usually starts with a rough idea, like a theme or a plot, a script, character designs, layouts for however many pages. And then we'll go to the pencils, inks, and then colors. During the pencil stage, I'll usually run through all 20 plus pages or however many, come back and ink all of those pages, then go forward and color those pages. But I know some people who pencil a single page, ink that page, color that page, and then go to the next page, rinse and repeat. I've never tried it that way, but it sounds like it takes long, so that's why I've never done it. Happily Success asks, do other art forms seem more attractive to you? I absolutely love this question, because the answer is, especially if I can't do them myself at all. So yes. Kari Kaparoinen, sorry if I butchered your name, asks, who is your favorite character to draw? And I wish I had one, but they all have their pros and cons. Maria Carolina asks, how can you make the most of a small budget for art supplies? And this is a good question. Only buy the essentials. Depending on what style you're trying to do, buy the things that will make your vision for that image come to life as best as you can. If you're trying to make sequential art, comic books, don't buy acrylic paints in bulk. Just stick to the pencils, a trusty set of inks, and a good eraser. Could you do some cool effects with the acrylics on your sequentials? Of course. Do you have to? No, you're on a budget, and that's what colors are for. B. Codrut asks, what tools do you use to create comics and what makes them the right tools for you? This is a question I get asked a lot. I've done a whole bunch of videos on the tools that I use. So I'm actually gonna probably link that in the cards right up here. I'm just gonna go over the new part of the answer that I haven't shared in some of the other videos yet. I use a Mustech A3 Express scanner, and it scans 11 by 17 Blue Line Pro artboards, or any kind of brand artboard, but I use the Blue Line Pros. And it's got extra space in there if you have even bigger, papers. And I use a Wacom Intuos Draw tablet. It's an old one. I need to replace it, honestly. The cord's not really working that well. And I use primarily Paint Tool Side to color. And I have one of the oldest versions on the internet that can be found, because that's before they turned it into a demo and started doing all kinds of weird stuff. I've saved and used this same version no matter how many times I've had to reinstall my OS, and I also use Photoshop. You gotta have it. These became my right tools after years of experimenting with many other tools. They help me achieve the look I want when I draw, so it was basically trial and error. Stella Polaris asks, what's the best advice you can give to a promising new creator? If you're new and going for a profit, know your worth. Of course, you're going to have to start low and slow, but once you gain some momentum, make sure you're getting your time's worth of money. I can't say what that will be for you, but there were a lot of times in the past where I've lowballed myself and regretted it. Ultimately, I chalked it up to the game. Hopefully new guys and girls won't put themselves in that position. Rexter Alvar asks, how do you feel about joining communities of artists? I think it's a great idea. I should be doing it more, to be honest. My buddy Rob Anderson asks, what type of script do you like to create from, and would you rather a writer give you a script outline or just the script and the freedom to bring the story to life? So if by type you mean a certain genre, then I have no preference. To the second question, I'm not a big fan of super strict outlines, since sometimes you can read a scene and it can be interpreted a number of ways, Fortunately, the clients I've worked with are, in spite of some of their writing styles, pretty flexible with suggestions. And I always like giving my clients alternate layouts, so basically I like the freedom to move around within the confines of the writing, but I always keep it as true as I can to the script and have no problem getting reined in by a writer if I go too far off base, Most of these Alan Moore-esque scripts and styles take a long time to read. You can get so caught up with the specifics and intricacies of each little element in a panel that it kind of takes you out of the scene, and that kind of makes it a little difficult to imagine, Ron Morgan asks, what are you trying to communicate to your audience through YouTube? That drawing is fun, easy, and anyone can do it if you keep it simple. Catherine Mendiola asks, when you are in a social gathering or have met someone new, do you present yourself as an artist or not? I never do, to be honest, unless I'm asked what I do for a living, which people always do. I usually just keep it to myself. Most times they just say, that's interesting. Zoran Titareski asks, in your opinion, what is the most influential form of media today? Probably the internet and everything it entails, for better or worse. Eldine Faizav Bosch asks, what has been the most unique artwork requested from you? How long did it take you to finish this request? That's a really good question, and I will list a few because I have gotten some pretty cool requests over the years. One would be that I had to design a killer ice cream truck that was like a tank, and that was unique. The other one was a super cool Victorian era eagle griffin combo. And he had a mace, and it's still one of my favorite designs. It came out really cool, especially in color. My most recent one was a demonic magician who has a flaming human ram head for a skull, wearing a black straitjacket. It's a very heavy metal design. That one was the crowd favorite. Probably took 30 minutes or an hour to get a look I thought was creepy enough to match the references the client showed me. B. Kane asks, Western comics usually have a high recognizable, high contrast style of inking, implementing techniques, hatching, feathering, and black salt shading. How did you learn to ink this way? And is there a specific name for this kind of style? Are there any resources you would recommend for learning? I'll answer in reverse order. The best resources I can recommend would just be Western comics themselves. Every inker and artist who inks themselves and has a really different way of doing that, high contrast look that you mentioned. It's good to see these variations in action and pick the best parts you like for yourself if you're trying to learn it. I don't think there's a specific name for it. A Japanese artist whose work I was kind of fond of came to my DeviantArt page to check out my work years ago, Teru-chan, if I remember correctly. And he said, wow, American style comics, very cool, So I guess it's called American style. I learned it basically by doing what I advised above. I took all my favorite bits and pieces of my favorite artists' inking styles and incorporated it into my own. If Ed Baines or Ed Bennings put line weights on all the curves, I did the same thing. If Adam Hughes centered heavy shadows on the muscles, I did the same thing. At first I didn't know why they did it, but as I studied anatomy in the more conventional, bookish way, I figured out why these techniques worked and looked cool like they did. I try to pass down most of the knowledge I have of these topics on my YouTube videos. The Blackest Night asks, what has been your favorite project to date that you've worked on, and what does the future hold for you as an artist? My favorite project to date is a story I did with my good friend Drew Kim back in 2016. It's a 22-page first issue futuristic utopia, dystopia type of book that I can't go into too much detail about right now. But that whole process was some of the most fun I've had doing comics. I learned a lot, made a couple of friends and contacts, came out with some excellent pages. Plus I think the story was just brilliant. The future holds only good things for me as an artist. To paraphrase an old quote, artists make their own luck. Kimberly Aguada asks, what is the most recent comic art you've completed? I'm working on a Deadpool core commission right now. By the time this answer posts up, I'll probably be done with it, so I guess that's probably it. Dragon Zadiel 101. I know who that is. That's Zadiel Vasquez. He subscribed to my channel for years. Shout out to you. You're awesome. He asks, how did you first tackle doing background scenery and especially buildings and landscapes or cityscapes? How did you go about choosing the right angle or view for each panel? And lastly, are you aiming for bigger companies like Marvel or DC, or are you solely independent? Backgrounds I actually decided to study by category first, and that was something I planned. First learn perspective, then lighting, textures, etc. I looked at photos, comics, real life stuff, whatever, and I drew what I saw. Picking the camera angle isn't too difficult most times. I trust my intuition and go with the first angle that pops into my head. If that was something that popped into my head the first time upon reading a scene, that must mean it's an effective shot in some way or another. Of course, I'll usually do one or more angle on a layout just to make sure I can't come up with something better. Where I'm going, I'm aiming for infinity and beyond, you know what I'm saying? Marvel, DC, Sony, Square, foreign publications, advertisements, video games, you name it, I want it. Rexter Alvar asks, again, I think you asked the question before, what was the hardest decision you have ever made in your entire career? That's actually a good question. It would have to be After having a good think about it, it would be deciding on what you're not going to do. For some reason, the people who have the longest budgets also usually ask for stuff that goes against what you're about and what you're interested in artistically and morally. For some reason, no lie, I've gotten pretty big offers before, which I could always use, by the way, to do a fetish story with animals and childbirth and all types of stuff. Needless to say, I turned it down, but he was also saying it was something I couldn't publicly post, so that doesn't do much for my resume, does it? Janine Parko07 asks, what are your career goals in the next 3 to 5 years being an independent publisher? The abridged version, world domination. Liz A asks, what's the most important big idea you've learned in life, in or out of comics, and why is it important? Say what you want. This is a big one that I actually learned fairly recently. Of course, everyone's heard of the whole ask and you shall receive concept, but I think the innate fear of rejection can be so intimidating that you'd rather not bring things up at all. Years ago, after having a pretty bad commission drought, and this is a lesson for you guys, I'd finally gotten a client's attention somehow. He found me. We entered the process of negotiations. When it finally came down to pricing, he asked how much it would be for all of the pieces, and we started at 5 pieces. I'd never charged as much as I knew I wanted and deserved at the time, and always lowered my prices, figuring no one would want to pay that much. DeviantArt wasn't really popping like that back then. But I had an attitude at the moment. I'd been without work for so long and I'd been getting dead-end leads for a while that I just said, forget it, just give me the highest price. And I threw out whatever figure it was that I wanted at the time. Keep in mind, I was totally expecting him to say no or to not respond at all. But I ended up working with the guy for 8 or 9 months, and 5 pictures turned into 7, turned into 10, turned into 15, and eventually I was making a whole living wage just 3.5 months into the job, at 19 years old. So that's definitely carried over into a lot of other aspects of my life. I guess it's a confidence thing. Michelle C asks, how many revisions or editing do you normally do for your work? Not much. I always get feedback from the clients as I go through the preliminary stages, and fortunately I get it right most of the time. They might have me do some tweaks here and there for a hairstyle or a color scheme, but I always do all the details before I start working on anything, so I don't have to do much reworking. Saves me some time. And that about wraps it up for this video for today. This is the first Q&A/AMA. If you like this video, if you found anything about it helpful, please leave your likes, your comments, and your shares. Make sure you favorite the video, share it everywhere, Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, DeviantArt, all that stuff. Links will be in the description to follow me on all of those aforementioned sites as well. And definitely leave any questions that you might have for the next AMA or something. Like I said, we might turn this into a regular thing every other month, every month, we'll see. Again, please subscribe to my channel, it really helps out. I'm doing pretty well. Last month I haven't posted a video since 4 months ago. I was surprised at how many subscribers I got during that time while I was away. I almost got like 100 subscribers, almost 200 subscribers. It's been pretty amazing, So I really appreciate everybody who subscribes to my channel, especially the viewers who've been with me for a long time. I really appreciate you guys like Zadio Vasquez, Windam. You guys are amazing, so definitely thank you for your support. Gunny like, hey Alice, thank you for watching. Later.